It's over!
He's done it again! Unbelievable!
Oh, straight into the roof of the net. Nice one. Straight down the middle. So, a good performance from both teams here today.
Hi, you're watching Firstpost. I'm Rupha Ramani. Let's get started. Well, sports is teaching us all a lesson. Never to give experience too much credit and never ever to discount young blood. The youngsters, the Gen Z and soon to be Gen Alphas who are rewriting history books, overturning the rules and telling us all to sit up and take notice. It happened in cricket over the weekend. The most experienced English cricketers were handed out a hiding by young guns in the Indian ranks, who did what very few have ever achieved till now. And then, of course, in badminton too, where a 17-year-old created history and showed the most experienced shuttlers the world over the door. And yes, we got you covered in football too. What is the point of holding on to the old when the new can be embraced and result in a much-needed change? Can the Red Devils turn things around after this point as well? All of that lined up on our show. But first, a look at all the headlines in Sports 360. We'll start with football and the Premier League. Liverpool beat Brentford 4-1 to stay on top of the points table. Nunes, Mark Allister, Salah and Gakpo scored for the Reds. Meanwhile, Arsenal's 5-0 win over Burnley and Manchester City's 1-1 draw with Chelsea ensured Arsenal was second in the points table. Over in tennis, Australian Open winner Jannik Sinner emerged as winner yet again. He continued his unbeaten start to 2024 by winning the Rotterdam Open. Sinner beat Alex de Minaur 7-5, 6-4 in the final. The win means Sinner upstages Daniil Medvedev as the new world number 3. And the world number 2, in fact, Carlos Alcaraz has crashed out of the Argentina Open in the semi-finals. Alcaraz was given an upset by Nicolas Harry of Chile, 6-7, 3-6. He will next feature at the Rio Open in Brazil in the coming week. Over in basketball, the East, led by Giannis Antetokounmpo, beat LeBron James's West by 211-186. In another game during the NBA All-Star Weekend, Steph Curry defeated Sabrina Ionescu in the first ever NBA versus Women's NBA three-point battle. And an Israeli swimmer was booed by spectators after finishing second at the World Championships. Her name is Anastasia Gorbenko and she won silver in the 400 meters individual medley event. She was being interviewed after her race when the jeers started. When Gorbenko stepped onto the podium, she was once again booed by the crowd. Now, the Indian cricket team at the start of the test was a completely different picture to the one we saw over the weekend. India outplayed England and has completely deflated the visitors as they will look to avoid defeat in the must-win fourth test match. So what worked for India? We were talking about the lack of experience going into this test in Rajkot, and guess what? There was none of that needed. And there was no need for any more of that as the youngsters played some of the most confident cricket to push any utterance of Bazball out of the picture. We have to particularly talk of two youngsters, both hailing from Mumbai, Yashasvi Jaiswal and Sarfaraz Khan, both products of the famous Maidan way of cricket. What is the Mumbai Maidan culture? Quite a few of them in this current Indian setup, in fact, have literally lived their lives on these Maidans. It's a massive area of land where multiple cricket teams' training sessions are all played simultaneously. Mumbai is a city where there is, of course, a premium on space. There's a crunch. So every inch of land is very, very expensive and crucial. So the idea is to make the most of it. So the large Maidans, the Victoria Maidan, the Oval Maidan, it's a massive expanse where many school matches and training sessions are held at the same time. The famous story, of course, goes of Yashasvi Jaiswal practically living in one of those tents that you see at the corner of those Maidans and playing his cricket in the initial years. The boy clearly has the skills. He shattered many records as he went on to score a double ton, and it came against a rather ordinary English attack. The boy is special, and can you believe it? He's just 22 years old. It took a certain amount of defiance and talent to completely bat England out of any contention. It was, in fact, this partnership between him and Sarfaraz, and the agony that the two youngsters piled on that took the wind out of the English team. In fact, we're talking about the records that Jaiswal broke, and here's what it was. Particularly, in fact, in this test, he's the first Indian to score more than a double ton against England in tests. He's only the third Indian to score 200s, in fact, in back-to-back tests after Virat Kohli and Vinod Kambli. He's only the third Indian to score 2 double tons in a test series after Vinu Mankad and Virat Kohli. He hit 12 sixes in an innings. That's a record. He equaled Wasim Akram when he did this. He overtook Rohit Sharma as the batter with most sixes in a series. And we are all still 2 tests short. And would you believe it? He is the first Indian to have converted his first 300s into 150-plus scores. Basically, he's already scoring daddy hundreds, and he is still a very young batter. That's some hunger for runs. And coupled with a very sane head when it comes to constructing big knocks, it's incredible. And the best part was the skipper Rohit Sharma saying he doesn't want to say much, and it's all just started for Jaiswal. Sarfaraz Khan, on the other hand, what an amazing story his has been. An emotional debut that he will always remember. 250s in both the innings, and he looked so much at ease, like he was meant to be a part of this test setup. Ages ago, Sarfaraz looked the most confident against spin, and he has made his case for continuing to feature in the Indian 11. In fact, I would be disappointed if he didn't get picked for that 4th test. In fact, just that whole session where he and Jaiswal batted together on day 4 it had so many lovely moments, whether it was Sarfaraz scolding Jaiswal for not taking that extra run, or when Sarfaraz was the first to raise his hands and celebrate Jaiswal's 200 and ran over to him to hug him. We love to see such things. It's a testament to good cricket and solid batting and great camaraderie. For that 4th test, Ravindra Jadeja, of course, came back strongly as well in this one to stamp his class with his 100 as well as his fifer, proving to be a critical component in India's success in this format. Let's also not forget R. Ashwin, who had to rush home after taking care of his mother. There was a scare there, but he returned, in fact, to finish proceedings. And of course, India celebrated his 500th scalp as well on the course of this test. What will England, in fact, take away from this very humbling defeat? Because they crumbled on Sunday. In fact, getting all out for 122 is appalling. Ben Stokes is putting up a brave face in the middle of what has been one of their worst defeats.
I've played 100 test matches now, and I know that thinking too deep can send you on a downhill spiral. Whenever I speak after we lose, it's what we do next that counts. Games are lost in the head. If we carry anything over, we are already going into next week with a disadvantage. I mentioned in the dressing room, we must make sure all the emotion and all disappointment is left in there, and all the focus goes into the 4th test.
A reinvention is required, something to snap them out of this state of numbness. But what did England do wrong, if you ask? Well, let's break it down to you. They lost the plot on day 3 itself. They were in a good position batting in their first innings. Ben Duckett had done some sensible batting. They did not have to negotiate R. Ashwin as well because he was absent from that day. They had to just build on that solid start, which they failed to do. That was a massive opportunity that just set up their slide. Then letting youngsters like Jaiswal and Sarfaraz rule the roost. I think any visiting team coming out to bat in India for a 4th innings, staring at any target post 400, let alone a 500-plus target, is immediately fighting history. It's never been done, and chances are slim from here on as well. So, even so, there was just no vision, no direction, no fight. The batters somewhere seemed to be caught between 2 vast approaches. There was absolute silence, no movement at the start of the innings, as the English batters seemed to be quiet against Mohammad Siraj and Jasprit Bumrah. And that looked like them contemplating going the aggressive route, the Bazball way, or the more reserved route. But they seemed to be stuck between a rock and a hard place without really deciding.
I'm afraid Bazball has been exposed this week. It's great when it works. The first test was a pitch that did all sorts, so I get Bazball on that pitch. But not the last 2, where the pitches have been absolutely fine to just play with positive intent, but more so, common sense. Let's be honest, this could get messy for England. Even when this England team have lost in the last 2 years, you have always been able to take the positives. or they haven't been hammered. This is looking like a wake-up call that surely sends a message. You can't just play one way against quality teams.
Well, he hits the nail on the head. Ben Stokes is clamoring about the umpire's call, that really saying that it should be removed. There may be some truth in there, but I think the larger concern is how is England going to come back from that position now, because the fourth test is a must-win and a loss there means a loss in the series. Manchester. It is often referred to as the city of rains, but it is also known for its football obsession, and rightfully so. It boasts of a rich tradition, a legacy of football glory. And the city of rains is now truly living up to that tag as far as its football fate is concerned. Divided by two colours, the red of Manchester United and the blue of Manchester City. Controversies and trophies are always pouring in, just like the grey and gloomy weather of Manchester. But the glory days seems to be far away now, particularly for Premier League giants Manchester United. Adding salt to their injuries is the fact that all the accolades is now being hogged by their step-cousins in blue, Manchester City. Cannot get worse than this for the Red Devils. And in their quest of turning things around, United are doing everything they possibly can. Splurging cash, check. Changing managers, it's a check. Luring big players, check. But when it comes to the trophies, error 404, trophies not found. Manchester United's desperation for the trophies can be derived from their expensive salaries. Manchester United topped the chart with over 1.42 billion in their salary bill. And the second on that list, surprise, surprise, City. Those are some shocking numbers, but such was United's despair that they ended up spending so much more. But even with these numbers, the success has been wanting, has been missing. Forget trophies, United aren't even in the race. Clearly, the high wages aren't yielding them the results that they most desire. But this wasn't the only thing that United tried. They kept changing managers in search of bringing the glory days back. And I keep saying that, using that phrase again. And their latest expedition was, of course, bringing in Erik Ten Hag. But that didn't answer their questions either, did it? So much so that United are currently out of Champions League, not even in contention for Europa League, and 6th in the Premier League points table. Given United's decorated history, this proves the club is in shambles. At times, they are exceptional, and in the next moment, they are on the verge of a humbling loss. The latest example being the game against Luton Town on February 18th. United were leading 2-0 in the first 7 minutes of the game. Clearly, fans were hopeful of a massive victory. But what followed was an abysmal display by the players. The scoreline might reflect 2-1 and 3 points for Manchester United. But those who watched the game can say United was saving that one-goal lead throughout the match and managed to win this one somehow. This was in fact United's 5th consecutive victory in Premier League, 5 consecutive wins. That is sure to help Ten Hag keep his job for a little while longer, and will certainly make all the Jose Mourinho talks to United go away, at least for now. Speaking of Mourinho, the Mr. Perfectionist may not be coming to United, but in an interview to Rio Ferdinand, he clearly pointed out what's wrong at the club in his very own unique way.
Do you buy new furniture units before cleaning the house? My intention at United was more about cleaning the house than buying new furniture. We didn't clean it the way we wanted. I wanted to clean from the second season, and we couldn't for different reasons. In terms of individuals, in terms of the profiles, I knew clearly what I didn't want, but it didn't happen. I tried my best, but I knew exactly the deep problems that we had there. In my third season, the manifestation of these problems was more and more clear.
Well, it took United 9 years to figure out there was no point in buying new furniture. You had to clean the old ones first. Since 2013, when Alex Ferguson, their most decorated coach, left, United have not really figured out a way to crack that void. But in their latest attempt to bring back the glory days, they are looking at a change in the director's role. Dan Ashworth, who is the sporting director at Newcastle United, has been linked to take up a job at the Old Trafford. Ashworth informed Newcastle United of his decision to leave on Sunday. But here too, the matter is a little complicated. Ashworth is in a contract with Newcastle that's on till 2026. And if United needs his services, they might need to pay a hefty amount to get him over. It's reported that Newcastle is looking for as much as 20 million euros for Ashworth. Dan Ashworth has generated a strong reputation in areas such as player recruitment and building high-performance structures, aspects the United need to sharpen the most, especially now. Many are calling this a high-profile signing if it happens. And United too are looking at this to be a long-term contract. And if Manchester Giants do get this deal done, it will be a massive boost for them. After all, the errors that have been committed, this is one thing that just might set things right. And who knows, you might see a new kind of devil on the prowl once again. Now, India's surge in global badminton championships continues. It was the men's team back in 2022 and 2023 where they won Thomas Cup and Asian Games gold. This time it was the women's team that has created history, conquering the Asia Team Championships, or the BATC. The women's team, headlined by star shuttler PV Sindhu, on a comeback trail, won gold medal. They beat Thailand 3-2 in a very, very tense, hard-fought final. But it wasn't just the familiar names that took India to glory. Teenage sensation Anmol Karb played a crucial role as India won their maiden gold in this tournament's history. Anmol not only proved age is just a number, but also showed that rankings too are just as meaningless. The 472nd ranked shuttler demolished world number 45, Ponpincha Chukiwong, to take India to glory. Another year, another chapter of domination in badminton. India's rise in the sport in Asia is on the upswing. If it was the men's team who scripted something special in the previous years in 2022 and 2023, it was time for the women's team to shine on the global stage. The Indian women's team etched their name in the history books with a 3-2 win over Thailand in the final. Now, BATC is an annual badminton competition organized to crown the best in Asia. The men and women's teams compete in their respective categories. The tournament also serves as qualification for the prestigious Thomas and Uber Cup finals. The 2024 edition was another tournament of firsts for the Indian team. They held their nerve to be crowned champions for the first time in the tournament's history. PV Sindhu, who was returning after a long break due to injury, led India's charge. Sindhu won her opening match 21-12, 21-12 and gave India the early lead. The young women who are really scaling great heights, Trisa Jolly and Gayatri Gopichand, doubled India's lead with a tough 21-16, 18-21, 21-16 win. But Thailand were no pushovers. They bounced right back by winning the next two matches, bringing it down to the last tie. And the player under pressure for India, Anmol Karb. The onus was on this 17-year-old. Anmol, ranked world number 472, was the lowest ranked member of the Indian team. But that did not hold her back. She defeated world number 45 Ponpincha Chukiwong and showed her winning mentality. The win was Anmol's third consecutive one over a far higher ranked opponent. She beat China's world number 149 Wu Luyu in the group stage of this very tournament, and also sealed India's win in the semi-final against Japan by beating world number 29 Natsuki Nidaira. So going up against a higher ranked opponent was not something new. The Indian athlete showed her maturity and resilience, especially when it was needed the most. National coach Pulela Gopichand reflected on what made Anmol Karb a special talent for the future.
To take the pressure on and show that kind of nerve, it is very refreshing. She is fearless. The kind of strokes that she plays comes naturally to her. She is reading the game well. You can see her intelligence. She played beautifully.
Gopichand rightly pointed out, strokes come naturally to her. Ironical to know that badminton only happened to Anmol by chance. Anmol's father built a cemented court along with their neighbours, not for her, but actually for her brother. Yet it was Anmol who took a fascination to badminton. Her obsession and pure passion for the sport is what's resulted in India clinching a historic gold. In the team tournaments, the Indian men's team had won 2 bronze in the past, but the women's team hadn't won a single medal till this weekend. It's added an exciting chapter for India in badminton. After a challenging 2-year drought for the women's team, this was redemption. While the Indian men's team was making all the waves, winning the Thomas Cup in 2022 and medals in the 2023 Asian Games, the women's contingent was struggling. PV Sindhu, who led India's contingent, was relieved after the win. Sindhu, who was coming back after an injury layoff. Sindhu reckoned this was a seminal moment for the sport in the country. Coming back from an injury layoff was never easy for sure. I have always wanted my team to win and ensure a winning start being the lead player. It is just fabulous the way the girls have responded in such style. In the Olympics here, these kind of performances are very important. The success indeed was redemption for the women's team. And Sindhu said it. It is the Olympics here, and just showing you are the best in Asia is a huge morale-boosting win heading into the next few months. We're almost done with the show, but it's time, as they say, for last serve. We know the summer months are almost here, but it's always nice to look back at some of the winter months and the sporting events that comes with it. Take a look at some of the stunning antics and acrobatics that skiers in Canada are up to. That wraps it up here on Firstpost. Hope you enjoyed this one. I'll see you again tomorrow with some more fresh stories from the world of sports. Till then, of course, take care. Bye-bye.
From impeachments to inaugurations, if it's a political story, we are on the scene. The race for the White House is heating up.
We're beating Biden.
How dare he say that?
If it's breaking news, we're live with the latest coverage. From the White House, the State Department, and Capitol Hill, we know the issues, but above all, we know the players to bring you the latest in-depth analysis on all the key stories that we're covering. I'm Eric Ham. Join me from Washington here on Firstpost America.